Hello, welcome to the 49th edition of Drive-Thru Review. Today I'm going to talk about Keythedral. This is an older game. I think it came out in 2001 or 2002. It's a game that actually has been on my radar for almost about that long. And saw, I think, a very limited print run when it came out. And I was kind of on a break, kind of going into a break from gaming at that point. And then I actually picked this up a few months ago. And I've had the chance to play it a few times now, and it's a real traditional Euro. It's really a cube pusher, but I still like it. It's almost got a homemade feel to it. Richard Breeze did it. He's got a series of these games in the Key universe, or the Key world, and I believe his wife did all the art on this. So it's got a real kind of homemade feel. It looks really nice though. So let me show you a little bit about how it works, and then I'll tell you a little bit of my thoughts. Okay, so let me give you a quick overview of all the different components that come with the game, and there's quite a variety of things that come with the game. There's two basic boards here. This is your Cathedral or Keythedral that you're going to be trying to contribute cubes to build. Here's sort of like a marketplace where you have some of the more or less advanced cubes, like you've got gold and cloth and ore. That's white stuff's ore. And then you've got your basic cubes here, 5 different colors, which the starting board here, these hexes here, is going to start off like this, and then you're going to grow this at the beginning of the game, and then all of these hexes are going to produce these types of goods here, which you can then trade in later for these types of goods. So what you're going to do is we're going to build this up, and I'll show you how that works as sort of a setup. And then you're going to place workers out onto these hexes as they come out of here, and you're going to get goods to trade in to get to build and acquire these little tiles here. So you can see this one will require a brown and a blue good, and then if you take that, you'll get 4 points for the end of the game. And so you start the game revealing all the 4 pointers, and once you build all of those and those have been consumed, then you're going to reveal all the 6s and then the 8s and the 10s and the 12s. When the last one's built, then the game's over. The other thing you can see here are these law cards. And so there's quite a few of these, and these are just sort of like usually like little one-time effects that you can use in the game at various portions of the round. And you usually just pay 1 cube and you get these. Now, in addition to this handy player aid card, which each player gets, this has a sort of a cost summary for each of the different things you can buy, and then it has a little turn order summary on this side, and this is pretty nice. And each player is going to get, in their color, they're going to get workers, which are these little round discs here, and then you're going to get these little like houses here, which you can upgrade. And then each player is going to get a couple of these fences in their color. So to start the game off, before you actually actually start playing the game, players are going to take turns drawing a tile from this stack here. And the numbers on the back basically just indicate how many players need to be in the game for this tile to be used. So like in a 2-player game, you just use the 2s. In a 3-player game, you use the 2s and 3s, and so on. So players are going to take a tile, they're going to grab it, and they're going to match it with the sort of the orthogonal ends here. So you won't match it in a diagonal sense, you'll match it like this, like so. So let's say I put that there, then I'm going to take one of my houses. Now all the houses have these different numbers on them. And there's not, one's not particularly better than the other, but there is importance to the number, which I'll explain later. So I'm going to take one of my houses. It doesn't quite matter, at least the first time you play, don't worry too much about it. And then you stick that in a corner like so. So hopefully on a later turn, somebody else will place there, maybe I'll place that there, or maybe I'll place another house, and you can place it anywhere you want. You don't have to place it next to the tile you just played. So you're going to just draw these tiles out. Let me just put a few of them out here. And this land is going to take shape in, it's going to be totally different every time you play. The layout of the different resource types are going to be different. Who's next to what is going to be different. And so you're going to have these houses out here. So let's say I just have this for, just for sample purposes. So the reason I've done this is that during the game, workers are going to come out of these houses. So when somebody chooses one, and I'll explain how that's going to work, I can take a worker out of my one house and put it in any of the adjacent tiles like so. So if I picked 1, then I could put that out there in this area or any of these other areas like that. So let's jump into actually, now that we've got a little setup here, how you actually go through a turn. First of all, you got your first player marker here, and so you're going to randomly decide somebody for that, and then it's going to then move around the board. But I'm being a little bit simple about that, but so I'll explain how this actually moves around the board. It works in a kind of a unique way. So the first player is going to take, and he's going to choose one of these numbers here and pull it off of the Keythedral. So if I pulled off the 1, let's say, I'll pull that off, and that means it's going to activate all the houses that have a 1 on them. So if I was green, I'd say I'll put that there. Well, that now means that I've blocked the 1 for red from going there. So red now only has a choice of either doing this forested area or this brown area here. So he could pick this one as well. And then it'll be red's turn. He's going to maybe grab the 2, and then so red will get to go first in this case. So he would put it out wherever his 2 is, and then my green player would put that out there. And you're just going to grab all of these off of there and then seed this board with workers. After that, you're going to get a good in the color of basically the tile that you put your worker on. So you're going to have an assortment of cubes after each round, and then you're going to go into what's called an action phase. Now here's all the possible actions that you can take. So I'm just going to go quickly through all of these, and you can just kind of get an idea of what's available on your turn. Well, the first thing you could do is buy a building tile. And that's simply buying one of these tiles on the Keythedral, in this case taking a brown or a blue, and then you just store that for later to score those points. And that's really the key action of the game, is to set yourself up to score those points. The next thing you can do is build a house, and that costs you 1 black and 1 brown every time you do it. Well, the way that you do that is you pay a black and a brown, and then you take one of these and you'll flip that over to an upgraded house tile. So what's going to happen then is when you have this upgraded and this number's called, then you can send out 2 workers from that location and consume, you get 2 resources. Next thing you can do is build a fence. And so that'll just cost 1 brown, and each player has 3 fences, and that's all they'll get. So what you could do when you play a fence is you basically will just stick it anywhere you want on the board, and it'll block that player from ever sending a worker out. But they have an opportunity to get rid of that. But if they pay 2 red, they can remove a fence. So they pay 2 red cubes and then remove that fence. And that fence is now gone. You don't get it back or anything like that. And then these next 3 are sort of the same idea here. And I actually call that cloth. That's just a bad habit. That's actually stained glass, the purple cube. So, but basically, if you trade in 4 of any color, you can get a yellow cube or gold. Trade in 3 of any color, you can get a purple. Trade in 2 of any color and you get a white cube. Gold and stained glass and the ironworks here, the white cubes, are used to get some of the later tiles up in the Keythedral. So if you look here, if you grab one of these level 12 or 12 pointers, this is going to cost you a purple and a white, which are, you know, some of the harder to obtain cubes, and also a red. And I should say that not all of these tiles are always the same. So you can see you randomly pick these out, and there's going to be some that, you know, aren't used in every game. So that this layout here is going to change from game to game. Now, one of the last things you can do is you can trade 2 of any cube for any other you know, traditional cube that you can get out of the board itself. And the last thing you can do is, this is almost the same as passing, is you can trade in any 1 cube here to grab a law card. So if we take a look over here, you've got a whole giant stack of law cards here. Now every round there's going to be 2 face down that are available. So when you take a law card, though, you actually are, it's the same as passing. So as soon as you pay a cube and take a law card, you can't do any more actions for the rest of that round. You could also just pass without taking a law card. But if you take a law card, then you're done. Now these are face down, and once one person takes this one and another person takes that one, then there's no more law cards out, and these won't get filled in until the start of the next round. Now in a 2-player game, you only have 1 law card out. And these law cards do a whole bunch of things. I don't really want to get into that. They're pretty straightforward, and they're just going to mess with stuff. Just as an example here, I'm going to read this one. For 1 turn in phase 1, you may change the number of one of your cottages and ignore the number on the cottage tile. So this basically means you can play a worker out of there if you want to. And then this one here, the cost of a building tile is decreased by 1 cube. This can be any type of cube shown on the building tile except a gold cube. So this could come in pretty handy. And there's some cards that'll, like, you know, counter a card. If you play a card, you can play another law that says, okay, a law that was just played is no longer true. And so there's a whole bunch of these, and these are pretty handy, and they kind of add a little bit of spice to the game. Now after everybody's passed or taken a law card, then the first player marker is going to move to the left. And then starting from that person's left, everybody can bid a cube to obtain the first player marker. Now all cubes in this case are equal value. So let's say there's a 3-player game, I just handed it to Billy, and then Johnny's to the left of Billy. Johnny will say, okay, I'll bid 2 cubes. And then I'll say, okay, I'll bid 3 cubes. Now Billy has the opportunity to either say, okay, I will give you the first player marker, and then you give me 3 cubes. Or he can match the highest bid that came around, so he can say 3 cubes, and then he can pay that to the person who made the highest bid, and then keep it for himself. And so in this way, this will kind of bounce around a little bit, and you've got to kind of watch where it's going, especially in a 4- and a 5-player game, as you can work out so that this thing kind of keeps going around you. So that's kind of how you deal with this. And that's pretty much it. You just total up the number of tiles that you have, the points on the back side of them. The regular cubes here are worth 1 point each. These are worth 4, 3, and 2 respectively. And you just add up all your points, and then whoever has the most points is the winner. And now let me give you a little bit of my thoughts. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the overview. This is a real straightforward game. It's a definite medium weight game. I think I like it for that aspect. It's not too much of a brain burner, but there is some decision. I've seen AP just totally creep over people in this game. That's probably one of its main drawbacks. But it's pretty light, and it plays relatively quickly, at least with 3 and 4 players. 5 goes a little long, and you've always got somebody that's in there just, making it feel like it's the end of the world, their decisions. But this is, like I said, it's a real straightforward, I'm going to trade these cubes in for these other cubes and convert these cubes to points. So it's really sort of an old school, cube pusher, Euro type game. However, I still like it a lot. It's not typically, I'm a definite Euro fan, but it's really dry. It's super dry, and the really, really dry ones I kind of tend to stay away from. So, but I really like this game, and I'm not sure what it is exactly, but it's the thing I think I like is the straightforwardness of it, and all the little pieces of it fit together, and it sort of reminds me of like a lot of these games kind of hodgepodge into one. You've got your sort of setup at the beginning, which reminds me of Catan, where you're trying to place your houses in the optimal place around the good resources. Make sure you've got the right resources and all the resources. And it's got some worker placement stuff in there. The workers come out, so you're kind of blocking people. It's just got a lot of all these different mechanics kind of hodgepodge in there together, but it still remains really tight and really fun. So if you're not a Euro fan at all, you're probably not really watching at this point. But if you are, I wouldn't recommend it because it's out of print and you probably pay through the nose for it. But if you can get a hold of it in a trade or something, I would say I would get this. So anyway, so thank you.